Welcome to the Dating Unsettled show where we dare to date differently. Y'all, this is it's a trying time. 2025 got hands.
Yeah.
2025 has hands, legs, feet, fists, jujitsu, Muay Thai, karate, and kickboxing. It quite literally does. But today I am honored, excited, pleased to be joined by a guest with which I'm going to address this unsettler request. And that guest is Dr. Charles Jr. Chidi
Hey.
Ohaeri.
I love it.
Dr. Charles Jr. Chidi Ohaeri is a psychoeducation specialist. What does that mean? It means you educate
Um,
people on
yeah, on
on
the
the
psyche.
psych,
Yeah. On the brain and the
and that's
psyche.
exa- and
Yeah.
that's exactly why we have you here. Thank
Yes.
you. That
Thank you
was
for having me.
yeah, just really dry.
Thank
That's
you
how
for
we do it
having
here.
me. Excuse the
Well,
retainer.
thank you for.
My dentist
Why
come
would we
in
excuse the?
because my
We
dentist.
invite.
Yeah, the
We
retainer.
invite a hygienic king. We invite the retainer.
We
Come
love it.
on, excuse the hole in my nose
We don't even see
and
it.
the you, but now you do because I've drawn your attention to it. Okay, so insecurities are out of the way now because we're just here and we're showing up however we
Yeah.
can.
Yes, we are.
Y'all, it's rough. Yeah, 2025 is rough, and we're
It
doing our
just
best.
started.
It just started and it's fighting us and we're fighting back. But this particular request had to do with the fires that are going on in Southern California.
Yes.
God, I pray that by the time this episode reaches your ears, they've been contained. I don't even know how that's possible. There are tornadoes, there's fires, there's climate, there's ash, there's smoke, there's
It's a
inhalation,
lot.
there's
Yeah.
trauma. There's a lot happening.
There's displacement.
And
It's everything.
you're in LA, so like, what's
I
going
am.
on vibes wise?
Well, ideally, the towns are banding together, and I think it's less about the media circus of it all, but more about people really understanding that people need help. Right? I think the deeper part about the fires, just like how it was in 2020 with COVID,
Yep.
we're a nation of literally people, and we're trying to contain ourselves from losing ourselves. You know, we lost items and lost things, but I think people are banding together to realize that a lot of people are displaced, not just home wise or house wise, but just mentally. Because again, imagine your house, your home, the place that you call safety, be no longer safe because it's demolished, it's gone. But I think a lot of people have come together and said, you know what, I have you, I'm your safety, and
Yeah,
whatnot. And it's strangers, you know, it's not just family, it's actually
absolutely.
strangers or whatnot who are, are kind of in this space of knowing that we're all one people. That's the vibe that
And I
I've
think
gotten.
it's beautiful. And I was in LA last week, and it was really just impactful and important to
Mm-hmm.
see how many. It's like a whole spreadsheet that Malan Mutual Aid Los Angeles Network, I think, had
Mm-hmm.
gathered of everywhere people could volunteer, get clothing, food, shelter, like banding together like I've almost never seen in the United States
Mm-hmm.
with an impact that is, I mean, global. People are commenting from Costa Rica talking about, I'll donate, I'll help you with your house, in the Palisades. So there's so much worldly community happening that's
Yes.
beautiful. On the ground donations, South LA Cafe was doing really amazing work. Etienne and
Yes.
Wacko LA have been working really hard as well. And then places like the Dream Center that are in this business year round, like providing resources to people. I think it's beautiful. This situation, this unsettler request we have here today, actually relates to dating. And I remember thinking, like, there is no way dating has anything to do with these fires. But as I am often reminded and often remind everybody else, dating is life.
Yes.
Dating is not like an isolated activity that just
No.
happens and stops when you leave the date. Ideally, if you are dating with intention and dating with purpose, like me and you and our friends tend to do
Yes, we
when you
do.
are engaged in that yeah, and sure do when you are engaged in that practice though, you're partnering for life. Like that's the
Yes.
hope, right? You're partnering for life and you are partnering by bringing your life to the picture. Like even
Yes.
if you haven't chosen this person, they're getting exposed to everything about you. And so I
Yes.
think this story really underscores that. So I'm going to read it.
Okay.
Unsettler request. My boyfriend thinks I abandoned him during evacuation. This unsettler writes, it has been an emotional time. My boyfriend is angry with me because instead of offering to help, I waited for him to tell me what he needed from me. This upset him. I thought I was giving him space to figure out what he needed. He thought I abandoned him, which I have never, ever done to him. Although I'm being blamed for abandonment and not caring because I didn't rush to his rescue, he did not one time ask me, am I okay? Or do I need anything? That night, I sent him the fire department notice that his area was being evacuated. He did not reply to me until the AM the next day, when I was accused of abandoning him and not caring, and that it was very telling that I didn't come to his rescue. I had trouble sleeping all night because I was wondering where he was, and when I woke up, I saw that his area had been cleared by the LA Fire Department, and I was very happy to hear that. I still felt that I should wait to hear from him because I didn't want to add to his distress. However, when he called, he was very upset. I am very nurturing, and sometimes my ways can overwhelm him. And the last thing I wanted to do was overwhelm him. I didn't want to take over in a masculine way. I wanted to allow him to let me know what he needed from me. I gave him too much space to lead me, and it backfired. So that's the story. And for context, y'all, this is a man and a woman. Both are in Los Angeles, both fully grown adults. We're not talking about,
High schoolers.
20s and
Yeah,
just trying to
yeah.
figure it out. High
We
schoolers,
just met
petty.
last
This is,
week.
this ain't that. This is real grown relationship stuff. And I think just even after reading that story, you had started saying that like we are leaning not just on the resources offered by a community, but we're leaning on each other. And
Right.
so when emergencies happen, you go to your people. And so
Yes.
she felt like, this is my people. I want to warn him that he could be in danger. And he did evacuate and he was in danger.
Hmm.
But he felt I needed my person and she alerted me, but she didn't check on me. So, what are your immediate thoughts and takes after hearing that story, just as a person? And then we can get into the psych later.
I think as a person, it's a situation where she felt she was doing right by adhering to his request, right? Because again, if a man or a woman tells you something at this adult age that you're saying that they are, you follow the directive, no more, no less. You don't question it, you follow the directive. And if you love somebody, you will follow that directive. Or if you're in relation with somebody, you will follow that directive. And I think she did that. Granted, this situation was in dire need, but she used the common knowledge of herself, knowing that, hey, I can tend to be overwhelming. This already is overwhelming. Let me not pour gasoline to his fire, so to speak, if you will. That's kind of how I feel just as a human. That's no psychoanalyzation. This is just how I talk. So
Yeah.
it's
No,
just
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
And when you said that, it was interesting because I think I'm realizing as I'm in an adult relationship that's
Hmm.
grown, where we have to use our big words and we have our
Yes.
big feelings, it's really not as simple as I had this issue when I was young, or I was unaware of this thing when I was young. I went to therapy, right? I know you're engaged in that part. I went to
Yes.
therapy to address it or heal from it. And now I get to just return with those skills
Yes.
and I don't need to revisit it and I don't need to think about it. And I can just apply the skills on my own and everything will be fine.
Yes.
It's actually, I'm taking what I've learned from therapy and I'm under crushing pressure. I would say, especially as Black women in relationships and
Yes.
given everything that's offered online, I'm under crushing societal pressure to apply what society tells me I should do in
Right.
this relationship
In this
and
relationship.
with my
Yes.
partner,
Yes.
and what God is telling me I should do for those who are spiritual, or what I feel, called to do, how I feel called to show up, and
Yes.
information He has given me about how I interact with Him and what He
Yes.
needs
How
from
you
me and
show
what
up for
He
him.
doesn't need from me. And
Yes.
I it sounds like, well, duh, Joy, that's how we interact with anyone. But like, not really.
No,
I
not.
don't actually believe that we go around to our colleagues, mentors, peers, the person at the coffee shop, your boss, your sister, your daughter, everybody, and you're carrying all this information around and that you actively apply it in every circumstance. And I think like what I related to reading the story was that crushing, like, oh my God, I have a very full set of maybe not instructions, maybe not directives, but information. And I'm just trying to take this post-it note and this post-it note and this post-it note of how best to show up
How do I
and
apply
be
it?
the best
Yes.
partner that I can be.
Yes.
And sometimes we make the wrong choice. Like, I don't know if it's the wrong choice, but sometimes we take all the information and we have to make you have to take action.
Yes.
Even inaction is action. And her action was knowing everything I know with all the information I have, I'm going to fall back.
Yes. But also checking in
Because
within
I think
herself. Because again,
Yeah.
when she said it, I can tend to be overwhelmed with my love, and I didn't want to overwhelm him. So she's has taken heed over the idea of like, let me go check on him, but I know how I can be. I mean, that's also, self regulation. She regulated herself enough to say, you know what, if I act like how I want to act, crisis wise, because there's a crisis going outside, it may overwhelm him, and I think
Yep.
that is the most important part, because everything you said about the and she took into consideration as a black woman, someone that is a black woman.
Yep.
She took into
Yep.
consideration and said, you know what, at the end in the beginning of the day, I have to check my own self, my own privilege, and the privilege that I do have is to love this man the way he's asked me to love him. Because if I love him the way that I want to love him, it may overwhelm him. And then from what it, right? It may overwhelm him. But I love him enough to
Yeah.
adhere to his request and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to give you your space, even in times of
Yep.
crisis. But I'm going to do the best that I can to fill my own cup, i.e., giving him the fire notice in his area, letting him know that there's
Right.
fires outside, the evacuation. That's the way that fills her own cup. But she has to still, adhere to what's going on in her body, if you will.
Absolutely. And I think like what's kind of funny is like black girls, we as we go about dating, and I think unsettlers will relate, or anybody who's just beginning to swipe, and not just all women, honestly. When I get
Right.
into the girls groups, the online chats, the forums, all women, not just black women, we have this fear of being too much.
Yeah.
It's I know it's industry. I know it happens to workplace, it happens to us in our families, it happens to us in our, but especially in our relationships, we have this fear that like all the love and energy and presence and dedication and focus that we like, even or especially when single, we know we can give to somebody,
Right.
we have a fear that it's going to be too much, so we modulate ourselves.
Yes.
And after the self regulation, correct me if I'm wrong because you got the psycho terms, the self regulation can become like an overcorrection
Yes.
of sorts.
In a sense,
It's
in
an
layman's term,
overcorrection.
I can
Yeah.
start walking on eggshells because it's like I want to do this, but let me
Yes.
correct myself. That's uncomfortable. And that right there
It's
is
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. And then for him to turn it and say, "You don't show up for me," and I'm using words my terms. You didn't show up for me in a sense. It's like, oh no, no, baby,
Yeah.
I wanted to. Trust me. The way that I wanted
Right.
to show up to you would have been, and because you told me in the past, too much. So
Too
it's
much.
a rock and a hard place, if you will.
And then there's also like cognitive dissonance, I
Yes.
think, which is one of my favorite terms. It's not like a yummy term, but I like it because I think it pops up a lot in our lives, whereby she really cares about somebody, thought, feeling, but action she takes is, I'm not going to contact him.
Right.
And that feeling of like, I'm showing up for him by not showing up for him might have caused some cognitive dissonance.
That and
And
also,
that's
sorry, let me finish your thought. Go ahead. My apologies.
No, and just to say no, and to say that that's uncomfortable is that sometimes like we want to do something. We very much our code, our personality, our inklings
Yes.
say show up like this, be the too much, be exactly who you are. And then dissonance is caused when we pull back because of the instruction from society or
Yes.
the inference or or whatever. We take that information, we take the inkling, they fight, and now we feel dissonant cognitively because I'm crying in bed because what I want to be doing is not what I'm actually doing.
That's my exact what I'm actually doing. I think that to go with the cognitive dissonance, it's also in a sense what kind of turns into a learned helplessness. Like I'm learning to be helpless in
Learned
this.
helplessness.
Yeah.
Talk, oh, come on, psychoeducate. I'm beaming because I love a good
I do.
communication science
Right.
term. What is learned helplessness, doctor, please?
Learn happiness in itself is that you're learning a certain pattern of behaviors that you know are detrimental to the relationship and are detrimental to whatever situation that you're in. So it's like I'm learning to be helpless, even though that in my own spirit I'm not. Again, the too much quality, if you will. I want to be too much. I want to be able to nurture and take care of my man in any situation that I can. But I'm learning how not to be because it's too much. It puts you in a
Wow.
position to think, okay, I don't want to overwhelm him because I love him so much. So I'm going to learn how to be less, which is not good either. You've heard the expression, don't dim your light for anybody. If you're actually full of light, your star is what it is.
Yep.
But the thought process is, it's like sometimes we, as humans, because we don't want to be alone, we learn how to be less for our partners. Not necessarily to make them feel
Mm,
better, but it's just we don't want to be too much because we got a good thing going here. So I'm learning how to
yep.
be helpless in this situation. And she's not helpless from what it sounded like because she alerted him to say, "Hey,
She was.
there's a fire, and you got an evacuation notice in your area." From what I understand, they don't live together, so there's that. But I care about you enough because I care about you. Get yourself out of there. But then again, I'm sure she could have said more, but she, again, to learn helplessness is like, okay, well, I'm going to give him a droplet, a breadcrumb, or something because it feeds and fills my cup to take care of my person the way that he wants me to. This is just what I'm getting from what you
Interesting.
just read. The way he
I
wants me
love,
to.
you know what yeah, I appreciate what you said. Sorry to cut you off, but I appreciate
You're
what you
good.
said about learned helplessness because
Yeah.
you are teaching probably a lot of us. Watch this term make the rounds now. We Black community, we learn one term, projecting, and now we run with it,
Everybody
right?
projected
Gas
narcissist.
gaslighting, everyone's a narcissist,
Yeah.
everybody's a psychopath. The one when everyone was a psychopath, I was like, okay, so I just nobody feels anything, huh? I
At
guess
all. We're
we
just
don't
out
feel
here
no more.
just.
We just all psychopathic. No, but this one, learned helplessness and separating or differentiating that from weaponized incompetence. And we're not
Yeah.
going to go into weaponized incompetence because, like,
No.
I don't necessarily think that's at play here.
No, it doesn't connect to
But
this. I don't think
it
so either.
it's yeah, but just it's so funny to see the difference. Weaponized incompetence being the I'm just going to act like I don't know how to do this so that nobody expects me to do it,
That's
and
different. That's different from the
then
situation.
yeah,
Yeah.
learned helplessness. I'm going to peel back now. Let's talk about him a little bit and gender roles, because in our
Okay.
last few minutes here, I think like it's very important to have your perspective. She is talking about, I don't want to take over in a
His
masculine
masculine role.
way.
Yeah.
That was like a very specific term I noted. She also used the term lead me,
Hmm.
right? And so I think there's this societal idea of a man leading. There's
Hmm.
even a Christian idea of a man being like at the head, and obviously they're not one household unit yet, but
Yes.
this idea of the man leading and the
Right.
idea of the woman ribbing and following and
And
being the
following
neck
and
and the
being.
swivel,
Yes.
while he's the head. So that played into her, I don't want to call it non-responsiveness, but her wait, her delay.
Right.
What do you see happening gender wise, or does this remind you of anything that you've encountered in your kind of like social practices of like gender roles and how people expect each other to respond based on the gender that they are?
Well, yes. What I because again, given what you stated and how you read the scenario how it played out, she has heard that before. That's not something that it came up from her. I don't want to be too masculine. She's heard that before, maybe from him or from other people in general. She's heard that before. So now it's indoctrinated in her mindset that I do not want to show up as masculine. I do not want to overstep my own boundary of leading in the relationship because she's probably had to do that in her past in other situations, whether it be relationships, whether it be at work, whether it be if she has children, whether whatever situation she has to have been the person that has to lead and has have led. But in a relationship, when it comes to type of relationship that most folks on social media say the man is the head of the household, sure. Times are different though, right? Times are different. And I think the ideology behind the times that are different, she could have led in that space, but still made him feel like he's
Mm,
leading as well. But it's hard to do that because if she's being scolded or has been scolded in the past from either relationships and or whether it be intimacy and or at work or whatever the situation may be, it's like you put yourself in a
sure.
position to where I do not want to feel how I feel when somebody tells me, "Oh, you're doing too much. You're being too masculine." Okay, well, let me regress. Let me regress. Let me take a couple steps back. And in this situation, in her mind, I have the answers. You need to evacuate. You need to do da, 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 da. But how that comes off is you're telling this man what to do. And any, Cro-Magnon male man is like, "Oh, let me burn that fire." No, baby boy, I love you. I don't want you to burn at all, whether it be in the fire
Right.
or anywhere in general. But she took it upon herself to evoke the idea that I don't want to be too masculine in this state of mind. I don't want to be
Right.
too forward thinking in this state of mind. I want to be deferential towards him, and to be transparent from the man's perspective. Hearing what his response was, almost like you abandoned me. It's like, well, what did you really want her to do? Because if she did the thing that she really wanted to do, it would
Uh-huh.
have been has been in the past of her being too much or doing too much.
Right.
So again, she
Overwhelming him.
overwhelming him, but she put in
So
his
if she's,
perspective.
yeah, if she's mothering, nurturing, which in her
Yes,
mind, I guess that mother or nurture is, but it's also interesting how we code things, right? Because she
yes,
codes mothering and nurturing with almost the exact same action is feminine mother and nurture or masculine lead, and it's the
Masculine,
same
yes.
thing.
Yeah, it is.
And
It is.
right, checking in or saying, "Are you okay? Why don't you come here? Why don't you do X, Y, Z?" She picks and chooses, and we all
When she
pick
wants,
and choose at
yes.
what moment which action is gendered, and it's so interesting to me that we are so afraid, all of us, myself
Yes.
included, like
You can be.
not exempt from this. We all are afraid to step outside the bounds.
Hmm.
I mean, non-binary people are like, but like
Yeah, yeah.
we're they're
Come
like,
over to
heard
this
the
side.
fear,
Yeah.
right? Like, heard the fear, rebuke it.
Yeah.
No, but I think we're afraid to step outside the bounds and be coded or read as only one, and for, like, as women, the femininity to be ignored, or for the femininity to not be seen.
Yeah.
We also get, there's this horrible equation that I think is happening in society, and that's happened in digital Black dating culture in the last couple of years,
Hmm.
which is Black women are the least desired on dating apps, sat sig, right? Like, in a statistically significant way, they're receiving the fewest swipes, likes, attention, approaches. Okay, make of that fact what you will.
What you will,
You
yeah.
take that, and then they exacerbate that fact and make it whatever they want it to be. But say that we are the quote unquote least desired, then they've taken a problem or non-problem. I don't believe it's a problem, and I can get into that on another episode.
Hmm.
But they take that problem and they feed you or try to sell you the solution, which is, you're not feminine enough, you're not woman
Right.
enough, you're
Not,
not woman
yeah.
enough to
Not
keep a man.
soft enough.
That's not
Yeah.
even new. You go back to
Yeah.
old Tyler Perry movies with the aunties who go, "Oh, you can't keep him because you don't cook. You can't keep him
Yeah.
because you don't." So then I'm selling you the solution. Be a woman. Here's what women do. Here's what men do. Cross your legs like this, sit like this, hold it
Right.
like this, contact him
Right.
like this.
Right.
Never triple text him, never double text him, never even text him. Don't even tell him you enjoyed the date after the date, because let him come
Yeah.
to you.
Play
Let him,
that play hard to get situation. That
all of
has
it.
died with the fire, in my opinion. I don't mean this fire. I mean this
Yeah.
one.
No, but just as men, right?
Yeah.
So men are sitting here, I think, with, unfortunately, or fortunately for men, not as plugged into this
No.
gendered economy of how to perform on date. I think a little bit, but not as
No.
much.
Not as
And they're
much at
not
all.
hearing the classes, they're not hearing the instruction. So they have no idea that my girlfriend's getting signals that if she shows up like this for me, she's being a man, or she's being masculine, or she's trying to now lead me. I think finally just bringing it to the fact that this was indeed an emergency,
Right.
right? For you as a man, what goes through your mind in an emergency, and how can partners be more sensitive to each other during emergencies? I
But
think we'll wrap with that.
I think you just said it. I think the word partner. Because ideally, if you're a partner, you have a position you need to play. Say for instance, if you're playing doubles in tennis, I'm not much of a tennis person, but like, the person behind you has to cover you. If the ball gets over my head, you got to cover me. You know, what I mean, it's coming to you. I'm not gonna back up. I know I got my back there, or my back covered. So ideally, at the situation where, in his mind, I got my lady who told me about the fires and told me to evacuate. Great, but I need her to
Right.
follow up. I need her to do more of her part or whatnot. And I
And
think
he and he never voiced that,
that's
right?
what I'm,
That's
and that's
within
what I'm
him.
getting to. But he never said that to her. And you have to communicate. And I know men in society say, "Oh, women don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to talk." Male fellas, we just do. No, we don't. No, we don't. Unless words come out of our mouths and say, "Hey, babe, I need this from you." And if we're in this adult relationship, that has to happen. Because, mind you, you said this is in high school or even in early 20s or whatnot. You have to communicate. This is what I need. They can either say, "Yes, I can adhere to your need," or, "Babe, I can't do that for you." Because ideally, he's mad that she didn't say, "Come over here." She shouldn't have to say that. You should say, "Hey, babe, I have to evacuate. Am I okay to come over there?" And if
Right.
she's like, "Yes,
Right.
come over here, babe, we can do it." But if she doesn't say that, because she's now, again, learned helplessness, saying, "Hey, if I offer that, he may think he's less of a man, because every man just wants to burn in the
Yes.
fire." Mm-mm, mm-mm.
And maybe on his end, he's like, I might be less of a man if I'm asking,
To stay with my
my
woman.
woman, can I
Mm-mm.
stay over here? I don't know because similar to him not knowing what we're being taught,
Right.
I don't know what y'all are being taught. And when I do hear some of what y'all are being taught, I'm like, boy,
That ain't it.
we don't want that. We don't need
Nobody
that.
wants that.
Bro. Okay. And then I think, like, kind of looking at the whole situation, there's also the fact that he never checked in on her
And that's what I
to
was
see if
going
she
to.
was okay.
He
And this,
never
yeah,
did that.
in this particular couple, like, I get because you know how sometimes, and this could be a psych thing. You let me know if it is. Could not be. When you create conflict, or thank you, when you create conflict or drama or trouble because you want to end the relationship. What is that called?
I mean,
When
that's
you
just
start
called self sabotage, if anything. But
self sabotage.
yeah, but it's a trauma response, right? Like if his mind goes to you didn't take care of me, you didn't abandon you abandoned me. That stems from
Yeah.
childhood. I don't want to get all Freudian on everybody, but that stems from
Okay.
childhood. But like, why is she the giver and taker of all of your well being? You should be that. The thought
Right.
process is like you are the man, the head of the household, the lead, not the neck, but the head. But the mindset is if you are incorporating this neck, i.e., the rib, the person that takes care, that covers you, that carries the carrier of all, give her directions to lead that help you and help the whole household, even if you're not in the same household. So ideally, he should have said, "Hey, how are you? Because I am the head, I am the lead. How are you doing?"
Or I'm your partner. Like,
Yes,
can't we take all gender out of it? Even if they
that's
were
true.
just two non-binary partners, should there not be? I'm okay. Are you okay?
That part. Are you
And
okay?
where
What do you need?
and
How can I serve you?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and maybe the wound of the abandonment is what led him to not ask or check. Like,
to
only
not
we know
ask,
what was going on in his head.
of
But
course.
to me, just at the end of the day, I appreciate your perspectives. At the end of the day, we need to all like get braver
Yes,
about how we show up, about how we express the masculinity and femininity, or whatever that means, if you have to assign it any gender at all, of our human behavior. And we have to sit in that. Men need to feel comfortable asking for help,
yes,
asking for directions, asking
yes,
for invitations, asking for whatever it might be. Women, we need to feel comfortable making decisions, checking in, making a plan, calling out. I All of it. Like, I think we all contain these multitudes. I think I want to
but
read these final comments. Oh yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
But also for women, and I'm not speaking for women. I'm asking women to also make it comfortable for us to be comfortable, right? Because if his mindset is like, I want to ask her for all this help, but I don't want to look weak because if I say something now in this, this crisis situation, I don't want it to be brought up later on if we have an argument. Oh, but when your
Yep.
house burned down, you came to my house. Remember? Don't do me like that. I'm not saying she talks like that or does
A
that. I'm
lot
just
of guys say that.
it's
A
just the
lot
truth
of,
because
yep.
we need that level of safety because maybe he didn't. Again, I don't know how long they've been dating. Maybe he didn't feel safe enough to let her know, hey, I need assistance, I need help. But he should have been a man enough, in my opinion. I said what I said and said, hey, babe, how are you? He didn't ask how she was doing. But again, I just wanted to add that little piece because he may not feel safe enough to let her know that he's in a crisis himself. I need help.
Listening to men can be flip of a coin in this
Yeah,
internet economy.
yeah,
But I think that particular thing you dropped, I've heard it before, and I understand and recognize how important it is to male daters, especially if you are in an ongoing relationship, friendship, whatever with me, and I get something from you or you borrow something from me. Please do not bring that back up later, like a little tit for
that
tat.
yeah.
Please don't throw things
Don't.
up in my face. If
Yeah,
you
we're not keeping
if you do me
score.
a favor, it's supposed to be, yeah, it's supposed to be out of the kindness and generosity of your heart. You're such a therapist. We're not keeping score
We're
here.
not.
Oh, I love that. Oh, we just love to see you flourish, doctor. You're really speaking like one of them now. Hey, every therapist in every movie or TV show ever, this isn't about keeping score,
It's not
right?
though. And even in my
Reasonable doubt.
own person, yeah, no, the movie, yeah, yes, I love that show.
Jackson Lewis. They were like, well, Lewis did this. Well, Jax did this. Yeah.
And it's a tit for tat. But even in my own development, I'll be transparent on this podcast that my own therapy, my own past situations and relationships or whatnot, it was about keeping score because I felt there was no safety at a certain space. But then again, it's like I have to create that safety within self. If I don't feel safety, I have to express to myself, is this something that I want to do? Because I don't have to keep fighting
Yeah.
for safety. You've heard the expression
Yep.
things bad about myself, but I don't want to do bad in general, whether it be
Yeah.
myself or within in a relationship. So I have to feel safe. And again, for a man to make a woman feel safe, we have go to the gym, you protect them, just stand behind me, woman, all that good stuff. But don't forget the things about the heart, because sticks
Eat
and stones,
protein.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, eat protein, all that jazz. But sticks and stones, sure, but words do hurt, and a lot of men won't admit it. But when women chop them down with words or snide remarks, it hurts them. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
other physical aspect of being a man comes out, the bravado. and it's like you're
I appreciate that.
overcompensating for something. So I just wanted to put that out there. So yes, I have the doctor terminology, but also I'll pitch you some
No.
stuff.
Ooh. Thank you. Thank you, doctor. We appreciate it. Y'all, the conversation on this topic is flowing and popping. I mean, there are so many comments, and I've gotten a lot of messages about this situation. If you are online, visit Dating Unsettled on Instagram and go to the post where you see kind of the little fire in the picture. You will see people's paragraphs on paragraphs with perspectives, discussions about lack of trust, ways to help. I really love this script that was provided by Shay, which is, I want to be there for you right now, but I'm worried about overwhelming you. What's the best way to support you right now? I'm here if you need it.
Right.
That bar that Shay dropped in the Dating Unsettled comments alone can serve so many people
Yes.
in so many situations
Yes.
for so much. This could be a work situation. This could be emergencies between partners. If you have friends who are losing people, especially at our age,
Yes.
quote,
Yeah.
quote, that age, we're getting to that age where our parents are going,
Yeah.
our loved ones, like it's rough. Like this script is so beautiful. So I say, everyone hold on to each other, engage with the comments. We're not going to read them all here, but just jump in. There's discussions about women giving up on being led. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the answers, Sway. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I'm just a dater. I'm just someone who's also trying to figure out, okay, I'm a young woman and I want to prioritize being with my partner and building up a family. And as I'm stepping from girlhood to womanhood and
Yes.
my independence to not codependence, because that sounds so negative
Yeah,
psychologically,
you're
but
not codependent, but you're dependent because you're still depending on this. When women and or men say, "I don't need him, I don't need her," we do. Yes,
we
we
do.
do.
Yeah.
Not just to
Yeah.
procreate or to touch each other, but like we need that understanding. We need that nurturing, and it can flip flop. Some women are kind of born and raised to be leaders, and some men were
Yes.
born and raised to be not necessarily followers, but like take a step
Support.
back, support. Yeah, take a step back, and that's okay. And for me, I'm very progressive. I'm very, very progressive when it comes to certain situations because there's certain spaces where 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, a woman makes more than a man in the relationship. That doesn't mean he's lesser or he's weak or he's broke. No, we're partners. You're not going to have a hot year every year. You're just not. And when you don't, the
No.
person who you see the most or sees you the most shouldn't beat you down. Society can do that because they do that anyway, especially with this melanin that we have.
Hello?
But don't go home and get beat up. And
Hello?
that's either the woman and or the man. Don't let the man say, "Oh, you
That's
riding on my
unsettling.
you riding on my coattails," or the woman say, "Oh, you get a job yet?" It's like if I did, you'd be the first person to know. Trust
You be
me.
the first person to know because I love you and because we're working on it
Yes,
together.
together.
Hello? So, yeah,
Hmm.
I think we do need to, Unsettlers, have more discussions on this, whether it's live discussions. Chidi, you definitely need to come back
I
on the
will.
pod, on the show. We
I
got to,
will.
yeah, thank you. We
Thank
got to
you.
talk about it ooh, there's so much juicy stuff. Like, we could actually, this could be a whole
Dive
forum.
into.
I know there's folks like tonight's conversations, and I'm not trying to like diss or dock. I think there's points that are made at times that kind of probably get distilled into a viral clip, and then it seems
Yes.
sensationalized and all that type of stuff. But I've never been to one of the full events, so there's a space that's trying to even begin to make sense of Black men and women in dating, the roles that we have and how we perform within them. I just
Right.
always want this to be, and Dating Unsettled has been, that balanced space, that scientifically informed space, and
Right.
like healing and healthy space for us to like get together. Also, Chidi, shout out to you because you showed up to our first and last Los
I did.
Angeles event where we were in person, the Dating Unsettled
Yes, I
Experience
was there.
LA.
Yes.
Yep, with
Sound
love.
bath
We
and
got to
everything.
sound bath and everything. We got to run
Hmm.
it back.
Hmm.
We have to meet our daters in person. LA, we're thinking about you. We love you. We care about you. And to daters beyond who either feel like they're too much or they feel like they were abandoned or whatever it might be, like we're feeling for you too. It's hard out here, but
It is.
please just like stay together, give each other hugs, check in on each other, swipe, 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 wipe, put the toilet seat down when you leave because I don't want to sit. I don't want to sit. Do all the things.
All
Dr.
of the
Chidi Ohaeri,
things.
everyone. You know where to find him, and that's the internet. And Chidi the MC. If you're
Yes.
nasty. I'm just
That's
kidding.
it.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you. Thank you, doctor.
I appreciate you.
Bye.